Welcome to this video on HTTP actions in Agent Studio. HTTP actions are a powerful feature that allow your plugins to interact with external business systems by making API calls. Whether you need to fetch data, update records, or trigger workflows in external systems, HTTP actions are the key to integrating Agent Studio with your existing systems. Let's dive in. By the end of the session, you'll understand what HTTP actions are, how to set up connectors, and how to configure actions to connect Agent Studio with your external systems. These skills will empower you to build robust plugins. HTTP actions are activities in Agent Studio that allow your plugins to make HTTP requests to external APIs. They're crucial for integrating with systems like HR tools or CRMs to fetch data, update records, or trigger workflows. HTTP actions support various methods like get, post, put, delete, and patch. For example, get retrieves data, post creates new resources, and put updates existing ones. This flexibility supports diverse use cases. A key feature is input arguments to insert dynamic values based on the user or some other condition. Consider an example. You can use an HTTP action to fetch a user's PTO balance from an HR systems API. This allows your plugin to provide real-time information to your users, enhancing their experience. But how do we connect to these external systems first? Before creating an HTTP action, you need an HTTP connector. This is a reusable configuration that defines how to connect to an external API. HTTP connectors are reusable, meaning you can use the same connector for multiple HTTP actions. This saves time and ensures all actions use the same connection settings. They support multiple authentication methods such as basic auth, API key auth, OAuth, and more. Now that we know the core features of HTTP actions, let's go ahead and create our own HTTP action HTTP connector. So let's go ahead and go to Agent Studio and create our first HTTP action. So in this case, I'm gonna go to Actions, HTTP Actions in the sidebar, and click on it. And you can go ahead and here, click on Create New, but you can also go to this plus sign, click on Action, HTTP Action, and Get Started. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. In this place, you'll see everything about the HTTP Action editor. In the first case here, you can see two fields, which is a action name and a description. So in my case, I'm gonna create an action that retrieves my PTO balance. So I'm going to call this get Moveworks PTO balance. This is from some random database that we created. And I can add a description as well. So it fetches the user PTO balance. And now that we're done with that, you can see that we have a few components here. A little drop down that shows you all the methods. For example, get, post, put, delete, patch, a base URL place, and a path, which is where you set up your endpoint. And at the bottom, you can see that you can create a new connector for your action, or you can inherit from a connector. If you have a connector already set up, you can select on this dropdown, will show you all the connectors that you have. So I'm gonna go ahead and also create a connector. And then I'm gonna show you something that makes creating connectors and actions very efficient. So there's this button here on the right. This is what we call input a curl request button. Once you click this, if you input a curl request, it will autofill your whole HTTP action for you. So I have this curl request. I'm going to paste it. You can see that it shows the request. It shows that the base URL and some other param queries and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and press import. And you can see that it autofills this for me. It fills the base URL, the endpoint, and some other fields. But I first want to just set the name for my connector since it's the first time I'm setting it up. And I'm going to just call this Moveworks purple connector. And then I'm going to add a description, which is a connector for Moveworks database. And also you can see here that we have the auth configs. In this case, this connector doesn't have any authentication, but you can also select basic, API, OAuth 1, 2, JWT auth as well. This endpoint also has query parameters. So I'm going to go to this tab, query parameters. And you'll see that I have two query parameters. One is the user email and the PTO type. This endpoint allows you to select from sick or vacation PTO type. And then you can see on the right, on the value of these query parameters, this what we call variables or input arguments are enclosed in these double curly braces. So whenever you have anything as double curly braces, it means that it's an input argument, which is a dynamic value. And whenever I set up a double curly brace input argument in the HTTP action editor, if I go to this input args button, it will auto-populate those input arguments for me. As you can see, you have user email, PTO type, and I can go ahead and here click edit to just fill it up with some more information. You can see the name, the data type, the sample value. In this case, I'm going to add my own email. And then you can add also a description, which is also required, the email of the user. And I'm going to set it as required because we always want to use this param query whenever we call in this HTTP action. And for the PTO type, we're going to do the same. So the sample value will be vacation, and then description is the type of PTO. So I can show you also that these are auto-populated for you. So if I created some kind of field called status, and I enclose in curly braces, if I go to input arguments, it'll show up here for me as well. So yeah, so you can see that it's very powerful, and it does a lot of things for you. So I'm going to delete that because I don't need that. So now I can show you that there's also headers. If you need to pass headers to your action or your API request rather, you can do that. And then also a JSON body payload. So now that all is set, let's just go ahead and press test to see if my HTTP action is working. So now that we press this, we're going to wait a second. Cool. Now after it's done, this little console pops up for us and shows us a response of the HTTP connection request. You can see that it returns some random user ID, my email, the PTO type that I set, which is vacation, a balance, and some details. There we go. And now that we are done with our HTTP action, we can go ahead and minimize this. And you can either save this as a draft in case you don't want to launch it yet, or you can publish it. But before I publish it, I want to validate that everything's correct. See, it shows that there's some highlighted errors. So my input args are showing an issue. Oh, it looks like I forgot to delete this since we're not using the input argument. I think it's missing the description and the sample value, right? So we don't need that. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. So another thing you can do is press Control-Shift-V or Command-Shift-V if you're on Mac to validate. And validation successful. Awesome. And here, let's press Publish. And this creates a connector for me as well. So I'm going to press Publish. Cool. And now this takes me back. Cool. So now that you can see my action is ready. And if I go here to inherit from existing connector, it created a connector for me and it's already in this list. So if I create a new connector, action, and I go here and inherit, now I can use that connector again. I don't have to set it up again. So here we go. That's how you create a HTTP action. In this video, we cover HTTP actions, including dynamic input arguments with curly braces, setting up connectors, and configuring actions, enabling integrations with external systems. I would highly advise you to try to set up your own HTTP connector and action using dynamic inputs like user email. Hands-on practice is key. Thank you for watching.